This is Risking It All for the King, Part 5. The Dark Knight is also on the move, said King Arthur. I overheard him talking to his men about the Arch. His own magician also sent word about the portal. The swamp soon gave way to forest land and the traveling became easier, although the swords in our hands got harder and harder to hold. Still, we didn't dare let them drop. Who knows, we might need them in battle. Which was odd to think about. How were 4 12-year-old suburban kids going to survive a head-to-head encounter with 3 huge knights on horseback? I tried not to think about it. Ah! I heard a voice behind me scream. I turned around and saw that John was now being dragged off into the woods by a man in a long, flowing cape. The man had his arm around John's neck and a short knife in the other hand. King Arthur turned and we moved behind him as he approached the kidnapper. "Free the boy," King Arthur commanded. Then his body shifted into a fighting stance. "Free the boy or suffer a terrible punishment." I could see the man trembling and John looked completely frightened, his face all white with fear. John had dropped his sword on the ground and was defenseless. "I say again, release the boy or there'll be terrible consequences," King Arthur bellowed. Surprisingly, the man did as King Arthur demanded, and John fell to the ground, crying. The man dropped his knife and held up his hands as if admitting defeat. "Sir, have mercy, sir. I'm on the run from the Dark Knight, sir, and I do not know where to turn," the man said, in a voice just above a whisper. His eyes scanned the woods. "I thought that the taking of the boy might convince you to listen to me, your highness. I thought I might have some leverage over you. I now see how wrong that was. I am no kidnapper. Have mercy, sir, have mercy." "Explain yourself," King Arthur shouted, now holding out his sword, "or you shall die a quick death." "I was the Dark Knight sorcerer," the man began talking quickly as the blade of the sword moved closer, "and I was the one who cast the spell to deliver your highness to this place. Alas, I'm not well versed in transportation magic. Along with you, your highness, I delivered the Dark Knight, his 2 assistants, and alas, myself, to this strange world." The man took a breath as King Arthur slowly removed the blade from his throat. The Dark Knight did not take too kindly to being trapped here and turned on me as soon as I conjured up the source of a return portal. Ha! I was quicker than he thought, however, and escaped, although just barely. I stepped forward. "What is your name?" He bowed in my direction. "I am Walster the Magnificent, the conjurer of magic from a long line of magicians." King Arthur turned to us and signaled a meeting. "When we're together," he said quietly, "perhaps it would help us to have such a person on our quest. What do you think?" John was still shaking, but he spoke first. "We will have to keep an eye on him. I don't trust him at all." "Fair enough," King Arthur said. We walked back to Walster the Magnificent. "Come along, sir, and together we shall search for the portal to get us out of here. But be warned, any sign of deviance will be met with the end of my sword. Is that clear?" Walster bowed low, his eyes now cast to the ground. "I understand. I will prove myself worthy." "Then let us be off and find this arch and the portal," King Arthur said. We followed him back into the woods. Again, I felt the 3 dice moving in my pocket. I reached in and pulled them out, weighing them carefully in my hand. Alex noticed me and moved to where I was standing. "Are those the dice that brought us here?" he asked. "Yeah, I guess I had them in my hand when we landed here. Do you think they could get us out?" Alex considered this for a second. "Who knows? Let's ask the magician," he said. And then he called for Walster. "Mr. Magician, sir, could you come over here?" The entire party now stopped and Walster moved closer. I held out my hand and showed him the dice and explained, "These are the objects that helped us transport into this game. Do you think they could be used to get us out?" Walster's eyes grew larger as he looked at the dice. I offered them to him to examine, but he took a step back from me. He held up his hand, gesturing to me that I should not move any closer. "Sir, those cubes are powerful magic," Walster said. "You must be careful. The number cubes hold many secrets of the universe and are the tools of the very powerful sorcerers. I dare not touch them." We all looked at the little red dice with the numbers on them. They didn't seem so powerful to us. "But can they be used to return us to our time?" Chris said suddenly. "It is possible. It is said the number cubes, when aligned with the moon and sun, can move fabric of time and space. I believe the numbers must align to a correct combination for the magic to occur. Any idea what that combination might be? I asked. Ulster shook his head. No, he answered. It is possible that I know the answer to that query, King Arthur said, interrupting our conversation. He'd been watching us with interest. The golden eagle of Merlin did have one more thing to say, but I did not understand the words until now. It was a riddle, and I have never been fond of Merlin's riddles. But that is the way of these magicians. The bird's riddle from Merlin was this: 3 squares of power, used in the darkest hour, with single swords showing, will transform the arch to glowing. The words tumbled around in our head for a minute. 3 squares of power, used in the darkest hour, with single swords showing, will transform the arch to glowing. Perhaps the 3 squares of power are those, what do you call them? Dice that you hold in your hand, King Arthur suggested. I repeated the riddle in my head again, but I couldn't make any sense of it. What did single swords showing mean? I didn't like the idea of needing them in our darkest hour. That sounded dangerous to me. Any ideas? I asked my friends, but they all shook their heads. Maybe we need to roll another 3 sixes, John suggested. That got us here. Maybe it'll get us out. Maybe, I said. It's worth a try. Stay tuned for the next episode of Risking It All.